Is XPR arguably better than XLM in certain areas? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, I would say yes. However, I want to make clear that when it comes to pure fundamentals, when it comes to Stellar, of course, it completely embarrasses the XPR network out of the water. Perceived adoption is way greater, not to mention its perceived fundamentals, also its popularity, just the overall vibe, right? It just feels a lot better when it comes to Stellar as of right now, of course, when it compared to something like XPR. And I think it will always be that way, right? In terms of the perception, the public perception, I should say. But then it doesn't mean that XPR loses on all fronts, because what do a lot of people care about hypothetically? And more specifically, even though I can't speak on anyone's behalf, what do I care about in the world of cryptocurrencies? That's looking for hypothetical upside. And when it comes to XPR, going to the price of 25 cents, that's around a 62x from here. Now, we have to think about this logically, right? Even though Stellar is better than the XPR network, in my opinion, fundamentally, and also in terms of popularity, could XLM do over a 60x in the next 6 to 10 months? Hypothetically, absolutely not, in my opinion. Now, why do I think so? It's because XLM currently, at the time of this recording, market cap is nearly 10 billion. Now, can that exceed, let's say, in a make-believe scenario, over $600 billion or around that, let's say, during a fully fledged bull run? And I'm not saying 20 years later, I'm saying in the next 6 to 10 months. I don't think XLM could do that. This is just my opinion. So then I have to think about this logically, right? What would have an easier time, let's say, not even doing over a 60x, let's say even over a 20x in the next 6 to 10 months? I think hands down it's going to be something like XPR, because since its market cap isn't that massive, relatively speaking, yet, it has, a less difficult time achieving something like that. It doesn't mean that it's better than Stellar, but I'm just saying it how it is. Like, for instance, are there going to be microcaps that outperform Bitcoin? Absolutely, at least in theory. We've seen it in the past, and I think we'll see it this time around too, right? But then does it mean it's better than Bitcoin? Of course not. But then I think that, if anything, is kind of a testament to how well Bitcoin did, to the point that it's already that massive where the room for growth really isn't that dynamic anymore. And I think the same goes when it comes to XLM. It's performed so well, historically speaking, that now it can't do those dynamic, pumps like what we saw in the past, at least hypothetically. But it's not a bad thing, right? But then, personally for me, given the parameters of what I'm looking for, because I'm not looking for a microcap, but then I'm not looking for a dinosaur, what is a good balance in between? Something like XPR, personally, in my opinion, even though I'm not telling anyone to buy XPR, but it's just a more logical pick for me. Even though I do believe in XLM, when it comes to my portfolio, I want to allocate more towards XPR as opposed to XLM. This is just my point of view, because I'm willing to take more of a chance on this. At least that's the way to take a look at it. Now, when it comes to XPR, is it just another project that's kind of gimmicky and kind of like piggybacking off the name of XRP and just being very similar, actually? I mean, it's literally XPR, right? It uses the same 3 letters as XRP, but then just like shifted around. But even besides that, doesn't mean that it's only piggybacking off that hype. Not entirely, because even though a little bit it is, not entirely, because if we take a look at the XPR network, it's a layer 1 proof of stake blockchain, which at first glance may not seem that impressive, but really, if we take a look at it, the XPR network provides an alternative to traditional payment systems like ACH, SWIFT, or Visa and MasterCard through an innovative resource model. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, again, like I mentioned just now, right? SWIFT, Visa, MasterCard. That's very impressive, in my opinion, at least in terms of what XPR is trying to do, right? Again, they're attempting to provide an alternative to traditional payment systems like what I just mentioned before. So that's very wonderful, in my opinion. Now, again, if someone's still kind of like in this idea that, 25 cents, a little bit too much to ask for, let's just put it this way. If XPR were to go to the price of 25 cents, considering current circulating supply and market cap would be around $7 billion. Now, let's just think about this in a make-believe scenario, right? Let's say during a fully fledged bull run, something like Bitcoin went to the price of $300,000. And let's say at that point, market cap's around 6 trillion. And let's say somewhere along there, Ethereum, went to a market cap of around 2 trillion. Let's say combined, that's 8 trillion. In that make-believe scenario, I'm not saying including Solana, XRP, XLM. I'm not saying that. Just in this scenario, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, are we saying when we take a look at those parameters, 8 trillion is an insane amount, in my opinion. I mean, literally, if we take a look at it mathematically, In a trillion, that's 1,000 billion, and in a billion, that's 1,000 million. So again, that's very massive. So are we seeing that out of 8,000 billion, around 7 billion can't flow into this? This is just my perspective. Now, I'm not saying what's going to happen next Monday, what's going to happen in the next 2 Tuesdays, or, what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying that. I'm saying during a fully fledged bull run, I don't see why 25 cents is too ridiculous when it comes to something like XPR. This is just my opinion. And really, I think XPR is in a good place because if we take a look at the Ripple and SEC case, which for quite a while, kind of gave a bad reputation for, projects that are focused on, the financial space, right? Like, for instance, also XLM. If we take that into consideration, because of years of that nonsense, which hopefully now, thankfully, is pretty much gone forever, there's no more of a kind of this dark cloud that covers the space. But then really, the way you take a look at it was that because that kind of nonsense did happen for quite a while, it's a blessing in disguise because now XPR doesn't have that many competitors because during those times, not many developers wanted to enter into a space that had a bad reputation. So then naturally, these developers, in my opinion, they probably chose other places like AI, like blockchain gaming, DeFi, NFTs, whatever, right? But then they just didn't really want to touch this space. But then now, there's not that many competitors, so it's a blessing in disguise for XPR. But now, again, in my opinion, it's just a waiting game because for quite a while, it was only known that, hey, you know what? It's either XRP or XLM. Many people didn't really consider, hey, there's number 3, number 4, number 5. It wasn't like that before. Now it's kind of like that. Now people have other options like XCN, XDC, of course, XPR, ZBC, and Swiftcoin. We have other options now, hypothetically. Now, it's not like the options weren't there back then. They were, but they weren't just really kind of brought up to light in this sense, right? It wasn't that popular. But now again, with the Ripple and SEC case nonsense, pretty much being gone, it kind of opened up, more projects, right, to really be noticed. And I think it's a good thing, really. And when it comes to XPR, again, it's just a waiting game because I think what's especially bullish, what I'm seeing as of right now, not related just entirely to like, XPR, just when it comes to like the whole crypto space overall is the fact that according to Crypto.com research, there's over 600 million crypto owners currently, which I think is very bullish because if we have that much right now, imagine what the amount of crypto owners be, let's say Bitcoin went to 200,000, 300,000. I mean, would there be 700 million, 800 million crypto owners? Who knows? But that wouldn't surprise me because back in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was roughly around 300 million crypto owners. Now we have over 600 million. Just take a look at the trajectory right there. And the way you take a look at it is that if there is that much attention, that much hype when it comes to, cryptocurrencies, are we seeing some of that can't flow into XPR again during a fully fledged bull run? I'm not saying tomorrow or something like that. This really wouldn't surprise me. Now it's just a waiting game again, but I'm willing to stay patient because anytime an income I'm acquiring, I'm holding, I'm just waiting. And maybe I might not have to wait that much longer because historically speaking, as a worst case scenario, altcoins, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, when did the last Bitcoin halving event happen? It happened back in April of last year. So 18 months from then is actually around October this year. Is this a guarantee? No. But then the way you take a look at it is that the way the market is heading as of right now with Bitcoin being over $100,000, that timeline really wouldn't surprise me, which is why I'm still staying patient. But I can't control the markets, right? I can't just wave some magic wand and say, oh yeah, price going down this time, going up this time. No, I can't do that. So then what can I control? Just myself. Accumulating more, holding, or just waiting. That's it. I don't think XLM is bad. But when it comes to XPR, is it better in certain aspects? Arguably, I would say yes, because just take a look at the hypothetical percentage price increase that it could maybe do in the next 6 to 10 months. When I take that into consideration, just that aspect alone, arguably, I would say, yeah, it's better. But then, of course, not in terms of fundamentals, but it doesn't matter because 25 cents is my price target for XPR during this bull run. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.